My mother raised her glass of red wine in the middle of her lavish birthday party and smiled as if about to offer a blessing. But no, what she said froze the air for a few short seconds. "I am proud of all my children, except one." Awkward laughter broke out, clinking like cold metal hitting glass. I swallowed the bitter lump in my throat, keeping myself from trembling. No one stood up. No one objected. They let her say it as if it were normal, as if I had never existed enough to be hurt. I'm Luna, the middle child in a family where the spotlight only shines on two ends, the perfect eldest and the spoiled youngest. I arrived at the party on time, wearing an old gray shearling coat, carrying a small gift box I had wrapped myself. A silk scarf from Italy I ordered last month because I knew she liked luxurious things. Snow clung to my coat hem as I walked into the mansion. My childhood home, now cold and unfamiliar, like a place I never truly belonged to. Guests had already gathered in the lavishly decorated living room. My mother, Evelyn, sat at the center of a red velvet sofa like a queen, dressed in a ruby-colored evening gown, her large crystal earrings sparkling under the chandelier. Beside her was my father, Walter, his face calm as if programmed not to react. My sister, Vanessa, was showing off her new manicure to Aunt Marie, while my brother, Jonah, was loudly laughing with some cousins about the new Porsche he got, rewarded with for graduation. When I stepped in, Vanessa glanced at me over her shoulder, as if I were a stain that just appeared on the white carpet. "Oh, you made it. I thought you had something going on," she said flatly, half mocking, half indifferent. I smiled softly. How could I miss Mom's big party? Mother didn't get up to greet me. She waved toward the gift table. "Put the gift over there. Then find a seat. Dinner's almost ready." No hug. No questions. No eyes lingering on me for more than a second. I quietly removed my coat and hung it up. Next to it were rows of designer fur and trench coats with glittering labels. Mine looked like something from a thrift store. I placed my small gift box next to the giant branded shopping bags from Louis Vuitton, Dior, Saks Fifth Avenue. All shimmering and excessive. The room was bright, but cold. A chill not from weather, but from glances, from indifference. I found a seat at the far end of the table where no one was nearby and poured myself a small glass of wine. No one invited me. No one called me. No one saved me a seat. The old family photo that used to hang above the fireplace had been replaced with two large framed pictures, one of Vanessa at her fashion show in New York, the other of Jonah receiving the Young Entrepreneur Award at a tech conference. I wasn't there. There was no space for me. Dinner was served, elaborate and expensive. Roasted duck with plum glaze, truffle mashed potatoes, artistic salad with edible flowers, premium red wine. People talked about work, projects, awards, but no one asked how I was doing. Even Dad, the only one who used to be a support, just nodded when he saw me, then turned away, like I was a server. I tried to speak. "I just moved into a new apartment in Garden Hill, near work." Mother looked up, but not to respond. She turned to Vanessa. "Sweetheart, tell everyone about your spring collection." Just one line, sharp as a blade. I lowered my head, staring at the untouched food on my plate. I wasn't hungry. I just felt myself slowly dissolving. And then came the toasts. Dad said something generic about health. Aunt Marie congratulated the star children. Jonah joked that being a genius was exhausting. Laughter erupted. Then my mother stood. She adjusted the red silk scarf. "The gift I brought," and smiled proudly. "I'm proud of all my children," she said. "Vanessa, our shining light. Jonah, so smart and generous." She paused, glanced around, and added softly, "I'm proud of all my children. Except one." No one objected, no one said a word, just forced chuckles. Dad looked down at his plate like solving a difficult equation. Vanessa covered her mouth as if embarrassed, but I knew she was delighted. Jonah raised his glass toward me, smirking. In that moment, I didn't cry or bow my head. But inside, something broke for good. I stood frozen in the cereal aisle. A house? My grandfather left a house for me? I couldn't believe it, but something stirred inside me. I began digging, combing through every public record, tracing every tax filing, and I found it. The will of Henry Whitman naming me, Luna Hale, as the rightful heir to the old house near Willow Creek Park. But the current records listed the owners as Evelyn Hale and Walter Hale, my parents. There was a power of attorney, but it wasn't my signature. I had never signed anything. The income declarations from rental payments also appeared in the tax reports. None of that money ever came into my account. It went straight into theirs. I sat alone with that stack of documents all night, my hands trembling. I looked back on my life. Every unreciprocated help. Every effort dismissed. And now, this final inheritance, from the one person who truly loved me, stolen behind my back. I couldn't stay silent anymore. And that's when I started planning. Not for revenge, but to take back what should have been mine. Not just that house, but my voice, my existence, the right to be seen and heard. I couldn't sleep that night. Mrs. Helen's words kept echoing in my head like a choked warning bell. Heard they sold the house Mr. Henry left for you. My grandfather, Henry Whitman, was the only one who ever treated me like a real person. When I was little, he used to take me to Willow Creek Park, where we'd eat ice cream and talk about the little white house with blue trim by the lake. Someday, that'll be yours. A peaceful place, he once said, gently patting my head. I just smiled then, thinking he was telling a fairy tale. I wasn't smiling anymore. The next morning, I called the Riverford City Public Records Office. I requested a copy of the property file for 417 Willow Creek Avenue. The voice on the other end hesitated for a second before confirming, the current owners are Evelyn Hale and Walter Hale, transferred from Henry Whitman in the year 2017. I went numb. 2017 was the year he passed away. It was also the year I graduated from college, was struggling to find a job, and still sending money home regularly. I asked, was there a power of attorney involved? The answer was yes. A document signed Luna Hale, granting full authority to Evelyn Hale over the property. I never signed any such document. I requested a full copy. Within 1 hour, I had the scanned file in hand. The signature looked like mine but was stiff, mechanical and emotionless. A digital copy. I knew, because I studied technical design, and I recognized the signs of electronic copy-paste. I didn't stop there. I accessed the public tax filing system. Then, the numbers appeared, clear as a knife at the throat. The house had been continuously rented out since the year 2018, with an average monthly rent of $2,300. Nearly 7 years. That's more than $190,000 before taxes, all filed under my parents' names. Not a single cent reached me, no one even told me. At that time, I was working 2 jobs just to afford food, while they sat back collecting income from a house that rightfully belonged to me. I printed everything. Every income line, every falsified document, every appraisal. I sat in the middle of my shabby rental apartment's living room. Papers scattered like evidence from a crime I never thought I'd be the victim of. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Just a slow, spreading coldness inside me. I remembered clearly. In the year 2019, I asked my dad for a small loan to repair my car for work. He refused, saying he had too much debt and couldn't spare anything. I believed him. I even felt guilty for asking. Now I know. That same month they signed a new lease for the house, raising the rent to $2,450. I wasn't just deceived. I was robbed. Robbed in an organized, calculated, and brutal way. They didn't just take money. They took away opportunity. the final support my grandfather left. They stole my best memory of him and turned it into a filthy mockery. I spent a night thinking, should I stay silent and disappear from the family forever? Or fight back? Then I remembered what my mother told me last year when I asked about Grandpa. His will was simple. Everything was divided equally. She looked me straight in the eye when she said it. A smooth lie. I thought about all the times I was dismissed, treated like an outsider. I thought about family parties where I was ignored, the family group chat where my messages went unanswered. And I thought about my mother's cold eyes when she said she was proud of all her children, except one. No, I wouldn't stay silent this time. I wouldn't let them bury me under the fake label of family unity. I began collecting everything. I created a digital folder with all documents. I backed it up to a hard drive and a private cloud service. I started reading about property law, forgery law, and similar lawsuits. The more I read, the more the anger inside me sharpened into clear strength. They thought I would bow down. They didn't know that the girl they abandoned year after year had learned how to stand up, and this time, I wasn't walking away quietly. I knew they would never admit what they had done, and I knew that if I stayed silent, everything would be buried forever beneath the illusion of family harmony. So I prepared. Not a loud explosion, but a precise cut. Silent, yet fatal. My mother's birthday party, Evelyn's, was held at the Amber Room, a high-end restaurant where a single meal cost a week's worth of my wages. The air was heavy with Chanel perfume, mixed with wine and smug pride. I arrived on time, like a programmed clock. Cold, precise, emotionless. My gift was a small ivory envelope, her name handwritten in delicate script. Inside was no cash, no present. Just one printed line. bit.ly/willtruth417, view now. It was a link to a folder containing all the evidence. Grandpa's original will, the forged power of attorney, property records, rental transactions, and my spreadsheet detailing over $190,000 embezzled. At the party, I sat quietly at the edge of the table like always. Vanessa talked about her photo shoot in Palm Springs. Jonah bragged that his coffee shop ad had aired on local TV. My father quietly ate, and my mother smiled as if addressing an elite crowd. I said nothing. I waited. And when the champagne was poured and everyone toasted to a happy family, I stood up. No one noticed. I calmly walked over to my mother, lifted her glass as if to toast, and slipped the small envelope into the bottom, letting it float up among the bubbles. She frowned. "What's this?" I simply smiled, gave a small nod like a toast, and walked away from the table. No words, no backward glance. I walked briskly through the large glass door, leaving behind the fake laughter and dazzling lights. The December night air was freezing but clean. Snowflakes landed gently on my hair like mist. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the parking lot, as if I had just closed a chapter, not looking back. I was unlocking my car when I heard it. A scream. High, sharp, full of panic, from inside the restaurant. I didn't have to look. I knew they had opened the envelope. I knew it had begun. I drove away, not speeding. No music, just the wind hitting the windshield, and my heart beating steady as if it had never known fear. My phone, on the passenger seat, started buzzing 10 minutes later. The first name that popped up? Vanessa. I flipped the phone face down. 5 minutes later. Jonah. Then Mom. Then Dad. Then Vanessa again. A flood of messages. Then video calls. I didn't answer. By the time I got back to my apartment, the screen was glowing white with notifications. I sat on the couch, watching it blink like a ticking bomb. I tapped one message from Mom. "Luna, what is this? Are you trying to destroy our family?" Another message from Vanessa. "Are you insane? How dare you do this?" I turned off my phone, said nothing. There was no sense of satisfaction inside me. only clarity. But it didn't end there. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and more than 30 messages. Some were pleading. "Sweetheart, can we talk? I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding. Don't take things too far, Luna. We can resolve this privately." Others were threatening. "If you go public with this, we will never forgive you. Family is forever. But betrayal has a price." Then, in the afternoon, I received an email from my father. Subject: "Do not push this too far. Luna, you don't fully understand the context. There were things your grandfather said that you didn't hear. We only did what was best for the family. Don't let everything fall apart." Died. I read every word, my eyes dry. None of them asked, "Are you okay?" No one admitted any wrongdoing. Not a single word of acknowledgement. Only control. Only panic because their power was under threat. And that only made me more certain than ever. I thought they'd stay silent for a while. I hoped, just for a moment, that maybe they'd reflect, face the truth, or at least find a respectful way to talk. But no. Evelyn Hale and the people behind her didn't apologize. They chose their usual tactic: twist the truth and drag me through the mud. 3 days after the party, I received a message from an old college friend, Jenna. "Did you really turn down your grandfather's house because you didn't want the responsibility?" Vanessa said so on Facebook. I blinked, my heart tightening. Turned it down? I rushed to my sister's page. Her latest post included a photo of white chrysanthemums in a glass vase, with a caption that read like a fake eulogy. Sometimes, choosing a career means letting go of priceless gifts from family. I hope my sister finds peace on the path she's chosen. Grandpa would understand. Below were hundreds of sympathetic comments. "Your mom is so strong for accepting her decision. Every family has a lost child." Poor old man. I could hardly breathe. This wasn't just distortion, it was a calculated campaign, an organized effort to discredit me before I could speak the truth. I checked Twitter. Jonah had posted, "It's sad when people fabricate stories to play the hero. Greed can turn blood into enemies." I wanted to scream. But I knew better. Screaming on social media wouldn't bring justice. It would only make me look like an overreacting lunatic. While they wore the victim's mask, I'd be the one under attack. So I called the only person who could help me then. "Bennett and Associates Law Office, this is Rachel. How may I assist you?" "I need to speak with Ms. Bennett. My name is Luna Hale. I am a victim of inheritance theft, and I have proof." 2 days later, I walked into an office on the 12th floor of the Glassridge building, a high-end office tower on the west side of the city. No velvet couches, no scented candles, no decorative excess. Everything was sharp, orderly, and cold as steel. Just like Miss Bennett's way of working. Harper Bennett. Mid-40s, charcoal gray blazer, hair neatly tied. Sharp eyes that never blink when someone lies. She flipped through every document I brought. No interruptions. No expressions. When I finished, she set her pen down and said 4 words. "You have a case." I exhaled like I'd surfaced from underwater. "They're spreading false information about me," I said. "They're saying I refused the house. They're turning me into the villain." Harper tilted her head. "You have a record of it?" I nodded, opened my laptop, and showed her screenshots, posts, comments, even anonymous threatening messages I had received recently. Some accused me of making things up to grab the inheritance. Others called me a traitorous snake. One person even wrote, "If it were me, I wouldn't let it go. An ungrateful brat doesn't deserve a family." Harper skimmed through it all. "We don't yet have enough to sue for defamation, but if they keep going, I'll show them what legal consequences look like." I nodded, trying to stay composed. "So what's the next step?" "I'll send an official cease and desist letter, demanding they stop all defamatory actions. If they ignore it, we'll present evidence of a coordinated smear campaign. At that point, we can sue for both inheritance theft and defamation." She looked straight into my eyes. "And from now on, do not contact them directly. All communication goes through me. You need to protect yourself both legally and emotionally. You're in a position of power now, Luna. Don't let them pull you down. For the first time in years, I felt someone was on my side. Not out of affection, not out of obligation, but for justice. That night, I received another post, this time from my mother. An old photo of me as a child sitting beside Grandpa, captioned, "Some beautiful things can't be kept when people choose to forget gratitude." I didn't comment. I didn't share. I simply forwarded it to Harper with one line. "I haven't stopped." An hour later, she replied, "Good. Let him keep going. I'm documenting every single move." And I knew, no matter how thick the fog they tried to spread, this time, I would tear through it all. I went to Harper Bennett's office for the third time in 2 weeks, carrying a fresh, thick file in my hand, blood boiling beneath my winter coat. This time, I wasn't there to ask for help. I was there to act. Mrs. Bennett greeted me with a glance sharp as a blade. No small talk. "Are you ready?" I nodded. We sat across from each other, sunlight from the large window falling across the papers spread over the table. Harper picked up each piece of evidence. The original will of Mr. Henry Whitman, kept by his private attorney. The 2017 property transfer with the forged signature. Financial reports from the tax department. A breakdown of rental income, nearly $200,000 collected from the house, that should have been mine. "With all the evidence you've provided," Harper said, "we're not just looking at a civil lawsuit to reclaim property. We have grounds for criminal prosecution. Forged signatures, inheritance fraud, abuse of power of attorney, and potentially tax evasion if necessary." I swallowed hard. Hearing the lawyer confirm it made everything more real than ever. This wasn't just emotional pain. This was legal truth. "I want to file the lawsuit," I said without hesitation. "I want to reclaim everything, the house, the rental income, and, if possible, the truth." Harper didn't smile, but her eyes narrowed slightly, as if contemplating a strategic move. "Good. But be prepared. They won't back down easily." She was right. The next day, I received the first envelope. A letter, printed on high-quality paper, with no law firm name, only the line, "We wish to resolve this internally." Enclosed was a non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, I would receive $40,000 and agree not to sue, not to disclose any documents, and not to speak to the media. I threw it in the trash without reading the rest. A day later, 2 unfamiliar men stood at my door around 10 o'clock at night. Black coats, gloves, one holding a clipboard. When I didn't open the door, one of them called out loudly, "We represent a relative of yours. You just need to sign and everything will end smoothly." I double-locked the door and immediately called Harper. "They're starting to play dirty," I said, my voice trembling. "Good," she replied. "I'm documenting every action. Do you have security cameras?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see. In the following days, letters continued to arrive, each with a different tone. Sometimes a promise to rewrite history. "If you sign here, the family will amend the inheritance, ensuring your name is on the document." Other times, a subtly threatening tone. "This battle could bring pain to the whole family. Don't let it go too far." One Friday evening, I opened an email from my father. Subject: Last chance. "Luna, you're doing the unthinkable. Your mother is devastated. Vanessa lost a contract due to public opinion. Jonah is having to sell his cafe. If you have any conscience, you'll stop. Don't become the one who destroys an entire family over a few dollars. Sign the paper, take the money and let it go." "Dad." I didn't reply. I just forwarded the email to Harper. 2 days later, we officially filed a lawsuit in the Riverford City Civil Court. The lawsuit had 3 parts: reclaiming property ownership, demanding the return of all rental income over 6 years, and seeking compensation for financial and emotional damages. Attached were full copies of legal documents, forged evidence, and a petition for criminal prosecution, fraud, forgery, misappropriation of assets. I signed at the bottom of the complaint, my hand steady, my heart resolute. The next day, Harper sent the official notice to my parents, with copies to their family lawyer and the district attorney's office. Every word was a cut, severing the control they had tightened around me for years. No more pultaye retreat. No more excuses. This time, they couldn't deny the crime. No more hiding behind family. No more hollow apologies. And if they wanted a fight, I was ready. The courtroom that morning was cold and silent like a frozen lake. I sat in the front row, hands clasped tightly, feeling an uncanny calm. No more panic, no more trembling, just a waiting. A waiting that had lasted for years. Across the room, my mother, Evelyn, sat beside my father, Walter, shoulders hunched, eyes avoiding mine. Vanessa wore a beige suit, expensive in style, but her face pale as if sleep-deprived. Jonah was busy typing messages on his phone, his attitude indifferent, as if this was just another dull company meeting. Their lawyer was a tall man in a neat black suit, hair slicked back. Ethan Grant, the Hale family's lawyer for over 2 decades. The one who once called me the quiet but obedient child. The one who signed as a witness on the forged documents. Harper Bennett entered like a cold wind. No frills, no expression, but her eyes were sharp as steel. She sat beside me, placed her hand on the thick file, then looked straight across. "We're ready." The judge was Judith Mallory, over 60 years old, white hair, voice deep and clear to every punctuation mark. After a brief opening, the trial began. Ethan Grant stood up first. He spoke a lot, painting a picture of a daughter misunderstanding her grandfather's intentions, an unfortunate misunderstanding in asset handling, and finally, a family trying to mend in love. They never mentioned the forgery, not a word of acknowledgement. When he sat down, Harper didn't stand immediately. She just opened the file, pulled out each piece of evidence, and spoke. "Calm, Your Honor. We have the original will, kept by Attorney Whitman, certified, confirming that the house at 417 Willow Creek Avenue was transferred to his only granddaughter, Luna Hale." She placed the will on the table. "We have the forged power of attorney, with digitally copied signatures, verified by a handwriting expert." Another document was presented. "We have rental records, money transfers from tenants into the accounts of Evelyn and Walter Hale." Then the transaction ledger, clear, detailed, undeniable. The room fell silent. I glanced at the family, Vanessa biting her lip, Jonah looking down at the floor, and my mother clutching the edge of her skirt, not daring to lift her head. But the strongest blow was yet to come. Piper turned toward the door. "We call the next witness, Mrs. Mavis Burton." The door opened, and Mrs. Burton, the neighbor who had lived next to my grandfather for nearly 40 years, entered with a cane, small in stature but with bright eyes. I choked up when I saw her smile at me, gentle like the spring of years past. She sat down, swore before the court, then spoke. "Henry Whitman told me, clearly, many times, that he was leaving the house to Luna. He called it his gift to the granddaughter who always knew how to yield. I clearly remember one time he showed me a handwritten note, saying, 'If anything happens, I don't want the girl to be pushed out onto the street.'" Ethan Grant tried to twist her words, questioning her memory, age, accuracy. But she just smiled, firm as stone. "I can forget many things, sir," she said. "But a grandfather's love for his only granddaughter is something I can never forget." The whole room went silent. When it was my turn to speak, I said only what was necessary. I recounted that I knew nothing about the house, that I once thought it had been sold, that I lived in a shabby apartment while my parents silently profited from something that wasn't theirs. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just told the truth, as if reading a verified report. After the final arguments, Judge Mallory withdrew to deliberate. I sat waiting, my heart pounding so hard my ears rang. Harper just placed her hand on my shoulder, a silent touch, but enough to keep me from collapsing. When Judge Mallory returned, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Ever, reviewing all documents, testimonies, and evidence, she said, her voice unwavering. The court rules. The house at 417 Willow Creek Avenue belongs to the plaintiff, Luna Hale. I felt like the air in my lungs reversed. But still, I didn't cry. The defendant must return all illegally obtained rental income from the past 6 years, totaling $198,400, plus accrued interest. Attorney fees shall be covered by the defendant. The court also acknowledges the act of document forgery and will forward the file to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution review. Harper turned to me and gave a small nod. I didn't look toward my parents or my siblings. They were no longer the center of this story. I only looked up at the justice relief hanging above the judge's bench. The first time it truly meant something. 2 weeks after the verdict was issued, I received a call from Harper near midnight. "Luna," she said, "the prosecutor's office just announced. Walter Hale will be prosecuted on 3 criminal charges: document forgery, misappropriation of assets, and inheritance fraud." I froze for a few seconds. My father, the man who always sat silently at dinner, the one who taught me how to ride a bike, was now being investigated as a deliberate criminal. But I didn't feel pain. Only the sharp clarity that justice had finally caught up with the truth. Not long after the news spread, my mother, Edelyn, was forced to resign from the community library when a local newspaper ran a headline titled, "Mother Accused of Stealing Daughter's Inheritance." The article showed her leaving court, head down, hair disheveled, coat wrinkled, a far cry from the powerful, elegant woman I once knew. My sister, Vanessa, lost her promotion contracts with 2 major brands. Partners simultaneously released statements pausing cooperation due to unresolved legal issues. Jonah disappeared from social media after his university announced the revocation of his scholarship, citing funding from a non-transparent family trust. No one paid Jonah's tuition for the next semester. My family didn't fall apart. They fractured piece by piece, under the weight of the secrets they had buried for too long. I moved into the house on Willow Creek on a crisp early spring morning. Gentle sunlight, cool breeze, the oak tree out front beginning to bud. As I slid the key into the lock and pushed the wooden door open, I stood silently for several minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't beam with joy. I just stepped inside, calmly and rightly, as if I had finally come home. I unpacked each box, arranged every corner. I cleaned the windowsills by hand, changed the curtains, removed the old hooks my family had used when they secretly rented this place out. I kept nothing they left behind. Everything was cleared, so I could start over, free of burdens and ghosts. A month later, Christina, the only friend who never left me during the storm, arrived with a slightly burnt peach cobbler and a bouquet of lavender. "We should celebrate," she said, "because you finally have a place that truly belongs to you." I laughed. After so many months, it wasn't forced. It came out as naturally as breath. Michael came too. He didn't ask about the trial, didn't mention my parents. He simply stood quietly by the empty wall and gently asked, "Would you like to hang a picture here?" I nodded. And so we hung the old photo, me at 12 years old, grinning with my grandfather in the backyard. Slightly blurry, edges torn, but I had never seen a photo more beautiful. Every weekend, the house filled with conversation, the smell of baking, barking dogs, and old music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. No one looked at me with pity. No one tried to mold me into some ideal. I was no longer the easy child, meaning invisible. I was no longer a shadow beside the 2 golden children. I was Luna Hale, the one who stood up, who fought, and who reclaimed her own voice. One evening, as I sat on the front porch steps, I received an email from Harper. Subject: Closure. Luna. The prosecutor's office confirms the investigation is complete. Walter Hale will go to trial next quarter. We do not have to appear unless we wish. On the financial side, the compensation has been fully transferred. You did something most people never dare. And you won. After. I sat there for a long time, watching the streetlights reflect in the glass, then looked down at my hands. The same hands that once trembled from being forgotten. Now they were steady, steering the course of my life. I did not forgive them. I didn't need to, in order to live better. I just needed to live, in my own way, among people who never required me to ask permission to exist. Una's story is a chilling reminder that sometimes, those who hurt us the most are the ones who call themselves family. But truth has a quiet power. When we dare to face it and demand justice, we don't just reclaim property, we reclaim ourselves. Luna is no longer the forgotten child. She became a symbol of resilience, of choosing to live a life rooted in self-worth, even if it means walking through betrayal by blood.